name is Ava. Let me tell you how I changed my life with the daughter of a millionaire. My father, Joseph, ran a small woodworking shop and was deeply passionate about his craft. However, one day, a fire broke out in his workshop, leaving him severely injured. After months of treatment, he passed away. With my father, we lost the peace and security of our home. My mother, Grace, tried to stay strong, but years of heavy cleaning jobs left her with a herniated disc. When the doctor warned if she continues lifting heavy loads, surgery may be necessary, she had to stop working. Debts piled up, the help from our neighbors ran out, and eventually our landlord evicted us. My mother tried to console me by saying, "This is just a test." But every night we slept in the park, I could feel her pain more deeply. One morning, while I was playing in the park with my little brother, Tommy, a luxurious car pulled up beside us. A serious-looking man named Mr. Samuel Carter stepped out. With him were a young girl, looking out the window with a sullen expression, and a graceful woman. The woman, Mrs. Lila Carter, introduced herself kindly, but with a touch of distance, and said, "I understand you're going through a difficult time. Mr. Carter has a proposal for you." Mr. Carter approached my mother gently and explained, "My daughter, Emily, has grown up without knowing the hardships of life. I want her to gain a new perspective, so I have an offer. If our daughters switch places for a week, both sides can see life from a different angle. If you agree, I'll help settle your debts and get you back on your feet." At first, my mother was hesitant. "Is this the right thing to do?" she asked. But I insisted, "Mom, it's only a week. We could pay off our debts and start a new life." Reluctantly, she agreed. Emily struggled during her first days in the park. "How can people live like this? It's so dirty and uncomfortable," she complained. But Tommy, while building towers out of stones, said, "Emily, these aren't just stones. If you imagine, they can be anything." Emily's expression softened, and she began to see things differently. Tommy even gave her his favorite toy, an old stuffed bear, showing her what it meant to share. This act touched Emily deeply. One day, Emily had to beg for money in the park. Tears rolled down her face as she experienced the judgmental looks of strangers, realizing how difficult it was to face life's challenges. Meanwhile, I was discovering a different world in Mr. Carter's mansion. Everything was lavish, but there was a coldness beneath the luxury. One of the housekeepers, Mrs. Susan, confided, "This house has everything, but it lacks love." Mrs. Carter, too, was so absorbed in her work that she hardly spent time with her family. When I told her, "Emily needs more than material comfort. She needs your love," she paused, reflecting on her priorities. Emily's younger brother, Ryan, was a bright and sweet 10-year-old, but Emily barely spent time with him. One day, Ryan asked me, "Ava, why doesn't Emily ever play with me?" It broke my heart to see how the family's emotional distance affected him. By the end of the week, Emily was a changed person. Hugging Tommy, she said, "Thank you for teaching me patience and sharing." She tried to return the stuffed bear, but Tommy smiled and said, "It's yours now. You gave me back love and kindness in return." When Emily returned home, Ryan hugged her and asked, "Did you miss me?" For the first time, she truly noticed his feelings and broke into tears. She began playing with him, and it marked a turning point in their relationship. Mr. Carter kept his promise, finding my mother a job and helping us pay off our debts. My mother began treatment for her back and regained her health. Mrs. Carter reduced her work travel and spent more time with her family, and Mr. Carter made a greater effort to be present at home. Emily now visits us often. She plays in the park with Tommy and helps my mother cook. Ryan, too, enjoys a closer and happier bond with his sister. One day, Mr. Carter told my mother, "True wealth isn't measured by money. When you touch people's hearts, that's when you become truly rich." This experience was a turning point for all of us. We learned that the most important thing in life is love and the joy of sharing it. Emily, Tommy, my mother, and I showed that real happiness comes from understanding and compassion.